Have you ever lain awake at night, not because of any specific pain, but because your mind was racing through hundreds of scenarios that never actually happened? You plan, you prepare, you worry, and yet the next morning most of it never comes to pass. Still, your heart feels drained, your eyes are heavy, and deep down, it's as if you've survived an invisible war. We often mistake worry for awareness, but in truth, it's a form of lost control disguised as care. Worry doesn't stop bad things from happening. It only robs you of clarity when they do. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Today I escaped anxiety. Or no, I discarded it because it was within me, in my own perceptions, not outside. And from that very point, the journey begins, not one that seeks to eliminate every threat, but one that teaches you not to be swept away by them." In this video, you won't learn how to outrun fear, but how to stand your ground when it arrives. Because when you stop worrying, you don't become weaker, you begin, quietly, to reclaim power over your life. 1. Worry is not preparation, it's theater inside your mind. Worry is not a sign of readiness, as many people mistakenly believe. It's the doorway to a stage where your mind writes and performs tragedies with no audience, no spotlight, yet drains all your energy and inner clarity. When you worry, you're not confronting the future, you're imagining it. You're not protecting yourself from risk, you're triggering fear. And the cruelest part is this. Your mind starts to believe it's being responsible, while in truth, you're sacrificing the present to live in a future that doesn't exist. Look at those sleepless nights, when nothing actually happens in reality, but inside your head, everything is falling apart. You see yourself fail before you try, get rejected before you speak, lose everything before you touch anything. You're not lying in bed, you're lying on an invisible stage where you are the scriptwriter, the lead actor, in the haunted audience of a story you created. These images don't protect you from pain, they make you suffer twice. Once through mental simulation, and once if it ever truly happens. But most of the time it never does. And yet, you still wake up exhausted, trembling as if you've survived a nameless war. Stoicism saw through the nature of anxiety thousands of years ago. Seneca once said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." This wasn't meant to comfort, but to awaken. When you worry, you're putting your mind in a reactive state to events that haven't appeared. Like a soldier firing into the dark, thinking shadows are closing in. The result isn't victory, it's depletion of the only ammunition you'll need if danger truly arrives. Observe how anxiety operates. It always begins with a silent question. What if? And the moment you answer, the mind asks another deeper, darker. What if that happens? Then what if something worse follows? You enter an endless loop of imagined fears, not led by reason, but by panic. And the hard truth is, anxiety doesn't stop just because you want it to. It stops when you look directly at it and name it for what it is. This is imagination, not reality. Because only when you realize you're performing, can you choose to step off the stage. People often say, "I worry so I can prepare better." But past a certain threshold, worry is no longer preparation, it becomes distraction. A prepared person outlines key points, practices delivery, and adjusts their tone. That's preparation. But if they spend hours imagining being laughed at, dismissed, or attacked, that's not readiness. That's a script. And that very script is what makes them shake when they step on stage. Because the mind has rehearsed failure so often, it believes it to be inevitable. The mechanism of worry is a neurological habit. The brain was designed to protect you, but when wild beasts and warfare fade, it creates its own enemies to stay useful. It exaggerates threats to keep you alert. But if that alertness isn't guided by awareness, it becomes a chain. You're no longer living, you're only reacting. No longer seeing the path, only the imagined cliffs on either side. And in that moment, you lose the greatest human power, the power to choose. A person without worry isn't careless. They simply understand that controlling the future through fear is impossible. Instead, they control themselves to face whatever comes. Worry is an attempt to control outcomes. Awareness is the choice to control response. And that's where peace arises, not because life is gentle, but because your inner world no longer gets swept away by imagined tides. When anxiety rises, you don't have to fight it. Just ask, has this happened yet? If not, return to something tangible. Take a step, exhale, write down an intention. Worry won't vanish instantly, but it no longer leads, and each time you do this, you send a message to your own nervous system. We no longer live in fantasy. We choose to live in reality. Worry doesn't make you stronger. It only drains your life in service of things that may never happen. But presence, however small, however simple, is a reclaiming of sovereignty. When you stop chasing what might be, you begin walking through what is. And in that space, silent power appears not because you've predicted the future, but because you're prepared to face it when it comes. 2. Don't react on instinct. Observe like a master. When you begin to step away from the mental scripts you've written in your own mind, you'll realize an even deeper truth. Worry is not preparation. It's the result of a chain of instinctive reactions never brought under control. Anxiety doesn't arrive on its own. It is the final product of an ancient cycle where emotion rises too quickly and reason hasn't yet entered the room. And if all you do is recognize worry as an illusion, without learning to redirect the emotions that create it, you'll stay trapped in that psychological loop. That's why observation, not reaction, is the next step for anyone who truly wants to break free from this invisible grip. Humans weren't born to be calm. We were born to survive. And survival doesn't require depth, it requires reflex. A strange sound in the dark could once signal a predator, and the reflex to flee was the line between life and death. But today, most of the threats we face have no teeth. They come as words, glances, an unanswered email, a passive-aggressive comment. Yet your primitive brain still reacts as if you're under attack. Heart racing, cold sweat, shallow breath. You feel the urge to respond instantly, to defend yourself, to explain, because somewhere deep inside, your mind still believes that if you don't act now, you won't survive. That's when you must retrain yourself, not by suppressing emotion, but by watching it like a commander surveying a battlefield, without judgment, without panic, without retreat. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Power lies not in avoiding discomfort, but in refusing to let it dictate your direction. True mastery doesn't require a battle sometimes. It's just the clarity to pause in a moment when you would normally react without thinking. I remember a moment when I received a harsh message on an already difficult day. My first feeling wasn't thought, it was reflex. I wanted to respond, to defend myself, to reclaim my ground. But something in me stopped. Instead of typing, I put the phone down. I sat in silence. I let the discomfort seep through my body without pushing it away. 30 minutes later, when I returned to the message, I saw it clearly. It wasn't an attack I needed to defend against. It was the voice of someone wrestling with themselves, and what I needed to do wasn't fight, but step aside. The urge to react is a sign that you're still alive, but the choice to observe before reacting is a sign that you've begun to live with intention. A person who cannot manage their reactions will always be led by the emotions of others. They smile, you feel okay. They frown, you feel wrong. They withdraw, you feel invisible. And somewhere along this constant adjusting, you lose yourself without realizing it. Observation is the act of someone who understands that not every emotion needs a response. Some emotions just need to be seen, like a cloud passing through the sky. No clinging, no resistance, just recognition and release. Awareness doesn't make you weak. It's the foundation of every powerful response that follows. When you observe, you pull yourself out of instinct's grip and return to the realm of reason. Like how you can't stop a wave, but you can learn to stand your ground when it hits. Every time you observe a reaction before it explodes, you reinforce the foundation of your inner self. And gradually, you no longer live in a state driven by the noise around you. You start to create space where others can rage, judge, or ignore you, but you are no longer pulled with them. Silence in the face of reaction is not surrender. It's a form of power known only to those who have once broken down in chaos and chosen calm instead. And when you truly master that power of observation, you're no longer a victim of temporary emotion. You are the one sitting at the center, the place no storm can reach. And from that center, you can move forward, not dragged, not desperate to be right, not shouting to prove you're okay. You simply stand firm as stone, deep as the ocean, and quiet like someone who has already seen everything they need to see. 3. Overthinking doesn't make you wiser. It only paralyzes you. When you learn to observe instead of react, you've taken one foot out of the survival instinct. But there's another trap more subtle, more silent, and often disguised as intelligence. Overthinking. If reaction is impulsiveness, then overthinking is silent paralysis. One makes you act too soon, the other keeps you from starting at all. And both rob you of the present moment. Overthinking is not the same as ordinary worry. It doesn't scream inside your head. It whispers. It dresses itself in caution, in preparation, in responsibility. It convinces you. Just think a bit more. Consider a few more options. Analyze a few more outcomes, and then you'll make the right choice. But that just a bit more has no end. It stretches for hours, days, sometimes years, and still you remain stuck in place. I once sat in front of an email for 4 hours. Not because I didn't know what to say, but because I thought too much about how the other person might feel, how I might be judged, whether the tone was soft enough, clear enough. I wrote, deleted, edited, then returned to the old draft. In the end, I sent nothing. And what I realized wasn't that I lacked the skill, but that my own mind was holding me back, like a door forever slightly open, but never letting me through. Einstein once said, "I think and think for months and years. 99 times the conclusion is false. The 100th time I am right." But you don't need to be a genius to understand a simple truth. Not all thoughts lead to clarity. Some only lead you in circles of doubt. Some questions aren't meant to be answered, but to be acted upon. And some choices only become clear once you move forward, not when you've imagined every scenario. Marcus Aurelius saw this too. He didn't say we must stop thinking, but that we must choose wisely, to look directly at our minds and ask, is this thought lifting me up or dragging me down? Is it giving me clarity or creating confusion? Most of us aren't stuck because we lack direction, but because we stay at the crossroads afraid to choose and end up going nowhere. Overthinking doesn't make you smarter. It only slows you down while life moves on. It's like standing at the riverbank, wanting to cross, but instead of stepping into the boat, you measure every depth, every ripple, every wind direction until the sun sets. And the irony is, maybe the boat is sturdy, the water shallow, the wind light, but you never set foot in it to find out. The more you think, the more you believe. Just one more thought, and I'll be certain. But certainty is an illusion. It never comes before action. It comes only after you've started, adjusted, stumbled, and learned. No one finishes a book by only thinking about the chapters. No one builds a relationship by only analyzing feelings. No one finds themselves by sitting still for hours and never stepping outside. Overthinking exhausts you, not because life is too complex, but because you're carrying questions that don't need answers. It's like lugging around a suitcase full of what-ifs, when all it takes is one simple action, sending the email, making the call, stepping outside to set you free. But you don't do it because your mind says, not yet. Wait a bit longer. Be careful. And you listen, as if it's wisdom when it's only fear dressed up as logic. So how do you get out? Not by forcing yourself to stop thinking, that's impossible, but by shifting yourself from analysis into motion. A small action, send a message. Write down 3 things you're sure of. Close the Google tab with 15 how to decide results. Take a walk. Call a friend. Any action is better than being trapped in your own maze. You don't need to be certain to begin. You only need enough clarity to know, right now, more thinking won't help. And each time you dare to take a step before you feel ready, you strengthen a vital muscle, the muscle of clarity. Not born from knowing everything, but from knowing when to stop, and act, even in the unknown. Overthinking is an addiction, and its antidote is not more reasons. It's silence, a deep breath, and one small move. Then you'll realize the light isn't at the end of the tunnel of thought, but in the narrow corridor of action, where you are no longer a victim of analysis, but the master of your next step. 4. Presence, not caffeine, is the real source of energy. And when you pause, take a deep breath after even the smallest action, you'll realize this. What awakens you is not certainty, but movement. When the mind stops spinning and the body begins to act, a new current of energy flows not from the outside, but from the clarity within. And that's when you touch a truth they don't teach in life skills classes. Presence, not caffeine, is the real source of energy. We often think we're tired because we work too much, sleep too little, or face too much pressure. But real exhaustion doesn't come from what we do. It comes from always being somewhere other than where we are. The body is here, but the mind is elsewhere. We eat without knowing we're eating. We talk without hearing the other person. We sit in a quiet room, yet our minds race toward tomorrow. And that disconnect is the very leak that drains our energy like a small hole in a cup we never notice. There's a paradox in modern life. The busier people become, the more disconnected they are. Not because they lack time, but because they're no longer in the moment they're living. At dinner, each person stares into a different screen. At gatherings, heads nod reflexively, but no one truly listens. Even when resting, watching movies, playing music, scrolling TikTok, we're not truly resting, because the mind keeps running, calculating, working. And so, we're never recharged. We simply pause and then burn out again. Presence has been traded for dopamine and multitasking. People no longer seek stillness to recover. They seek stimulation, a fake busyness, to avoid facing the emptiness within. A morning cup of coffee is no longer a moment of savoring. It's fuel to push us out of bed and force ourselves forward. A conversation is no longer connection. It's an exchange of obligations. And what we lose isn't just peace, it's our deepest life force. Epictetus once said, "It's not things that disturb us, but our interpretation of them." But we can't see things clearly when the mind is always pulled by what hasn't happened. Every time you open too many apps, your phone battery drains quickly. Humans are the same. When your mind opens 10 tabs at once, worrying about work, thinking about family, regretting the past, imagining the future, you'll find yourself exhausted and not know why. Not because you've done too much, but because you've lived too little in each moment. I've felt it even in ordinary meetings. I sat there, nodding, taking notes, replying. But inside, I was already planning the next meeting, thinking about unanswered emails, imagining dinner plans. And when I left the room, I was drained. Not by the content of the meeting, but because my mind had never truly stayed in that room. It had run a marathon while I sat still. Presence is not something lofty. It doesn't require meditating in a forest or turning off your phone for a week. It begins with small acts, eating slowly and tasting fully. listening without preparing your reply, washing your face while only washing your face, not thinking about life, rolling your bike out and noticing which way the wind blows. These small things are how you reclaim your energy without needing to add anything new. You only need to stay. When you are truly present, you no longer need to prove anything. You don't need to do more, speak more, know more. Because deep presence itself is a form of strength. You'll see. The present person always commands respect not because they're loud, but because they don't waver. They make others feel their presence so clearly, it shifts the atmosphere around them. Presence doesn't pull you away from the world. It allows you to step into it completely. It gives you a kind of energy that doesn't come from sugar or dopamine, but from understanding. I am alive, here, right now, not in the past, not in the future, not in imagined scripts. And from that place, clarity, confidence, and inner strength begin to return. So if you feel drained and don't know why, try this. Instead of another coffee, pause for 3 minutes. Turn off the music, close your eyes, feel your breath, feel your palms, your shoulders, your heartbeat. Do nothing, just be, and you'll see. What you need is not more energy, but to stop unconsciously losing it. Presence is not loud, it's not flashy, but it is the foundation for the durability of everything you build. A life that doesn't need escape, a body that doesn't resist, a mind that doesn't need to be busy to feel worthy, and an inner power that never shouts, yet earns respect from the world. 5. Stop rehearsing disasters. Start living for real. When you are fully present in a moment, you are no longer a spectator of your own life. But here's the paradox. Even when we've learned to pause, to breathe, to return to the present, an old habit quietly pulls us away from real living. Not the phone, not other people, but our own imagination. Because you can be sitting still, yet inside your head, a tragic play is unfolding, written, directed, and performed by you. And the saddest part is, you don't even realize you're living like an unpaid actor, constantly rehearsing for the next catastrophe. We call it being cautious, preparing for risk, thinking ahead to avoid surprises. But at its core, it's a modern superstition, a belief that if we imagine enough disasters, those disasters won't happen. That if we mentally replay the worst-case scenario, we won't be hurt when reality hits. But life isn't that merciful. It doesn't reward you for suffering in advance. It just drains you before the real challenge even begins. I've walked into important meetings with that exact mindset. A week before, I imagined everything that could go wrong, from faulty data, to my boss's dismissive glance, to the silence after I failed. I thought I was preparing, but when the day arrived, I entered the room with a tired mind, a tense body, and eyes that had lost their confidence. What made me perform poorly wasn't lack of skill. It was that I had already failed dozens of times in my head, and my belief had fallen apart before I even began. This habit of disaster rehearsing doesn't just exhaust you, it numbs your ability to feel joy. You prepare for a first date by looping thoughts like, what if she finds me boring? What if I'm not attractive enough? What if it ends in awkward silence? Without realizing it, you've already cast yourself as a failure before you ever show your true self. And when the moment comes, you're no longer you, you're a version of you trying to avoid mistakes. No one wants to be with someone who's afraid to breathe naturally. Some will say, but I'm scared. I'm just trying to prepare so it won't hurt as much. I understand. But you must accept this truth. The human brain is wired to look for danger to enhance survival. In ancient times, that was helpful. But today, with no tigers chasing you and no wilderness to survive, that reflex becomes a burden. You fear social tension, critical feedback, subtle disapproval, and instead of living, you spend your life practicing death. That is the silent tragedy of modern life. Seneca said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." True pain doesn't come from what happens, but from the scenarios we endlessly replay in our minds. A woman once told me that whenever her husband traveled and didn't text on time, she imagined accidents, betrayal, and divorce. She didn't realize she was creating a tragic film with no audience. And when he returned with a relieved smile, all she had left was shame for having thrown away a peaceful day over a fiction. To escape this loop, you don't need blind optimism. You just need clarity. When you catch yourself rehearsing for a disaster that hasn't come, pause and ask, has this actually happened yet? If the answer is no, return to the present. And instead of replaying fear, take one small action in reality. If you fear the presentation, open the file and practice once more. If you fear they won't like you, send one honest message instead of writing and deleting 20 drafts. When you stop rehearsing disasters, you'll notice something strange. Life isn't as scary as you thought. People aren't as cold as you feared. Situations aren't as terrible as you imagined. But to reach that truth, you must leave the mental stage where you are actor, director, and audience, and begin living as a human being who breathes in real life. Because if you don't live truthfully in the present, you'll always be a prisoner of a future that never happened. And the price isn't just your energy, it's an entire life delayed. You'll love too late, act too slowly, forgive too little, and live too shallowly because you've grown used to living in worst-case assumptions. And strangely, when you stop obsessing over what could go wrong, you make space for beauty to arrive. Deeper conversations, truly peaceful moments, joys that aren't tainted by anxiety. You don't have to control every possibility, you just have to be fully present for what's actually happening. And if today you choose to do one thing differently, let it be this. Stop rehearsing for disasters that haven't come. Live honestly right now with a mind that's no longer bracing for war. 6. Peace doesn't come after victory. It is the foundation you fight from. And when you stop rehearsing for disaster, when your mind is no longer a stage for fears yet to form, you begin to hear something faint but real, the the sound of peace. Not the applause after victory, not the praise after perfect control, but the stillness that arises when you no longer need to prove anything to the future. Yet to hold on to that stillness, you must understand this. Peace is not a reward once everything is resolved. It is the ground you must stand on to walk through what is still unresolved. We often live as if, just get through this task, just survive this crisis, just reach this next milestone, and then we'll finally be allowed to breathe. But you'll see. When one battle ends, another begins. When work settles down, family stirs up. When one fear recedes, another rises. If you keep waiting for life to calm before you let yourself be calm, you'll wait forever and never touch the very thing you long for. Stoicism doesn't teach you to wait for peace like waiting for good luck. It teaches you to forge peace like an inner force. Epictetus, a man once chained, once a slave, spoke of spiritual freedom more than anyone else. Because he knew, if your mind lacks an inner pillar, you'll always be shaken by external events. And when you are shaken, you lose the ability to choose. You can't respond wisely. You can't hold your center in the storm. I remember mornings when I woke up with a heaviness I couldn't name. An unanswered email, an upcoming meeting, a comment someone made the day before. Small things, yet together they formed an underground wave. I used to try fixing everything to feel lighter, but the more I chased resolution, the more I got pulled under. Until one day, I did nothing. I just sat, breathed slowly, and watched my mind as if it were a muddy stream. I didn't try to purify it. I simply stopped stirring it. And gradually, the clarity returned on its own. That's what true peace gives you. Not escape from reality, but the ability to stand inside it without being swept away, without being tangled, without reacting. And once you master that state, every action you take afterward, whether word, decision, or silence, carries a force no one can see. The force of someone not driven by fear, not manipulated by expectation. Peace, therefore, is not weakness or retreat. It is the condition that allows you to act rightly, at the right time, in the right way. Not because you need to win, but because you no longer need to brace yourself. And in that state, you become the hardest kind of person to defeat. Not because you're invincible, but because you no longer fight from insecurity. So don't wait for peace to arrive after the storm. Choose to live from it right now as someone who knows they can't control everything, but remains calm enough not to be drowned by anything. Because in the end, no one can take your strength from you if you know how to return to the deepest source within. The stillness no one can touch. I used to believe that worry was a sign of responsibility, that if I didn't think enough, didn't prepare hard enough, everything would collapse. But I was wrong. There was a time when I woke up every morning already feeling like I had lived a bad day even though nothing had happened yet. I kept replaying negative scenarios in my head. Failure, misunderstanding, loss. And the cruelest part was, I was the one who created it all. No one exhausted me. I drained myself. At some point, I couldn't take it anymore. I didn't change through some glorious revelation. I simply stopped. I walked slower, breathed deeper, and when worry showed up, I didn't chase it. I watched it like a drifting cloud. From that point on, I began to reclaim something I once thought was a luxury: peace. Not because the world got better, but because inside me, there was finally a place that no longer trembled. If this video helped you recognize that the silence within you is also a form of strength, hit like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications to walk with us on the next journeys. You don't have to shout to be heard. You only need to be still enough not to be forgotten. Be calm but not invisible. Be peaceful but never passive. I'll see you in the next video.